It's time for the Nootropic Study of the Week.
Alright, so in this week's Nootropic Study of the Week, we're looking at the effects of cocoa on cognitive functions and mood states in healthy human subjects. Now, I've heard people say that they get an MDMA experience from cocoa if they take enough of it, but while cocoa hasn't been studied for its recreational use and its euphoric effects, mood enhancement is an effect of cocoa that we'll be looking at in today's study, and it's also something that we've seen in the review that we've done here at Nootralize of its 3 studies that we reviewed, and in these studies 126 participants received cocoa, and other than mood then there were improvements in attention, energy, problem solving, mood, I said that, anxiety and mindfulness. And there were no side effects at all in these 3 placebo-controlled trials in which 126 participants received cocoa. Now, the specific study we're looking at today is called Cocoa Polyphenols Enhance Positive Mood States but Not Cognitive Performance, a randomized placebo-controlled trial. Now, as mentioned, this is a randomized controlled trial and there were only healthy human subjects. The duration of the study was 30 days, and the number of participants who received cocoa and finished the trial was 24. Now, the average duration of education for all of the participants in this study was 16 years. And the study design was so that the participants received 20 grams of a dark chocolate drink, which then contained cocoa powder, and a standardized amount of cocoa polyphenols. So either 0 milligrams in the placebo group, or 250 milligrams or 500 milligrams in 2 separate groups receiving the active ingredient in cocoa, which was considered important here. There are other ingredients that are active, such as flavonols as well in cocoa, but polyphenols was the studied active ingredient in this study. So what were the results in this study? Well, if we look at tests of working memory and speed of memory and power of attention, then we can see that cocoa didn't have an effect, and that is true for calm as well. So all of these tests after 30 days, then cocoa didn't have any effect on whether standardized to 250 milligram polyphenols or 500 milligram polyphenols. Now, the secondary memory test, which is essentially the long-term memory, measuring the long-term memory of your cognitive performance, the test that measured it had a small positive effect. So cocoa improved your long-term, or the participants' long-term memory in this study. And in regards to the continuity of attention, which is essentially how much you can continuously have attention in something, cocoa actually reduced that figure slightly. So a slight decrease in continuity of attention was noted with cocoa. Now, the alertness was also improved, but only with a small effect size from cocoa. And this could be, of course, due to the caffeine content or due to the theobromine content as well. And in regards to the contentedness of the participants in the cocoa group versus the placebo group, there was a small still but approaching moderate effect size on that test. So very, very close to moderate. It really depends on how you interpret the effect size, but the usual way of interpreting it is that 0.2 and above is small, so there is actually an effect from the intervention that we're observing in the study. And moderate is 0.5 and above, and 0.8 and above is large. And this test, so content, the test called content in the study came out with an effect size of 0.49. So it's essentially moderate, but it is small still, if you want to be very strict in how you interpret it. So small to moderate effect size on contentedness from cocoa. Now, there were no side effects from cocoa at all during the entirety of these 30 days that 24 participants were observed that were more frequent than in the placebo group. So cocoa didn't have any side effects and still might have some of these positive benefits that I mentioned was found in this study. Now, they did measure cocoa's effects on mood acutely, so within the first day, and they didn't find any positive effects from cocoa on mood. But as I mentioned, for example, on contentedness, which is a measure of mood essentially, they did find after 30 days an improvement which was almost moderate on contentedness then. So the mechanism by which cocoa improves mood is probably not connected to caffeine, I'd say, because caffeine, you usually build tolerance to it, and especially the mood boosting effects of caffeine you build tolerance to. So cocoa improving mood is probably not due to the caffeine content, and I'd say that it's also probably not to its tasting well and it being part of a chocolate drink as it was in the study, because then we would have probably seen the effects from cocoa on the moods of the participants within the same day that they received the nootropic. And to summarize the effects from cocoa on cognitive functions and cognitive performance, cocoa didn't really have any significant effects. One could say that alertness is probably the most evidence-backed based solely on this study then, and we have other studies in the Nootralize app that you can review for yourself. But I wouldn't say that based on this study we can draw any conclusions at all regarding the efficacy of cocoa on any cognitive functions. I do, however, find the researchers' discussion regarding the cognitive enhancement effects, or rather lack of cognitive enhancement effects from cocoa in this study, quite interesting, because what they said, the researchers then in the discussion part, was that because cocoa in the study improved calm and contentedness, and cocoa has been shown to improve cognitive functions in other studies, it does seem plausible that cocoa has its positive effects on cognitive performance only in stressful situations where calm and contentedness is important. So if you are in a stressful situation where you need to be calm, then cocoa may be extra useful for you to perform cognitively as well, not only feel well. Now, if you want to learn more about cocoa, then you can go into the Nootralize app and the Nootralize app page for cocoa, in which you'll find the dosages that have been studied on healthy human subjects and the duration of those trials, and also the effects that have been found from cocoa regarding cognitive performance and mood. So if you want to learn more, go to the betra.nootralize.com/nootropics/cocoa page. And other than that, I really hope that if you do decide to use cocoa, that it works for you and that you do get a mood enhancing effect and that you increase your cognitive performance, maybe even not only in a stressful situation.